Okay, welcome to another video. Again, this is aimed at horse owners and clients, and just to some assistance in or my thoughts on dealing with your horse's feet and moisture and what you should be using and how you should be using it and when in the summer months when it gets warm. So I just want to talk to you a little bit about the structures involved in moisturising the hoof and keeping it nourished with water, and how to keep things nice and healthy. So on the internal external structures video we talk about the periopal, so let's just have a quick recap now. This scaly stuff on the top of the hoof here is a structure called periopal. One of its functions is it controls the moisture content, or it takes in moisture. It feeds up to the coronary band here, and in the coronary band is the perioplic corium, which sits in the perioplic groove, which is directly above the coronary corium, which is this area here. And it's the coronary corium which have little hair-like projections which produce the horn tubules that grow down. There are three types of horn within the hoof. Inside each one of the horn tubules there's a type of horn called intratubular horn, and it's like a flaky sort of substance, and it takes in moisture and it keeps the horn tubules supple. So when the horse bears its weight down and the ground pushes up, this hoof bends inwards, and the hoof needs to have the ability to bend in like that and then return to its normal shape. If it's too dry, when it bends in it will snap and break, and that's where you see a lot of cracks and sort of what we call a broken back hoof pastanaxis, long-toed horses. It's a breaking of these horn tubules. So in the summer when it goes dry and we have lots of heat, you have a process, a thing called evaporation. Moisture, water will just evaporate into the atmosphere. The hoof is absolutely no different. It will lose moisture. What usually happens, this is a shod foot, is anything that loses moisture will get smaller as a result. So if the hoof dries out, it will get smaller. The clenches that you see here, that your farrier clenched the day that your horse was shod, if the hoof gets smaller, these clenches will stay where they were put on the days, and that's how you end up with risen clenches. And if any of you notice, you get far more risen clenches in summer than you do in the winter months. It can work the opposite way in the winter with too much water, and it expands and lifts the clenches up. So really, ideally, what we want is to maintain moisture in the hoof and not allow it to dry out, and don't over soak it when it's too wet. So as a general rule, in the summer months, once you get to 12-13 degrees and we've had no rain for a day or 2 days, that's the time you want to be putting the moisturiser on. If you wait for the cracks to appear and then think, oh, I need to put the moisturiser on, it's already too late. The hoof is already too dry, and no amount of water that you put on is going to fill in the cracks. Once a crack is there, because the hoof is essentially dead, although it's not technically dead, but dead cells anyway, the crack cannot repair itself, and it leads to all sorts of other problems like premature shoe loss. Then your farrier can't get the nails up because of the splits and so on. It can become quite a nightmare for some horses in the summer months. So a routine on what to do is a good thing. First of all, products. The number one product to avoid is hoof oil. Hoof oil is fine for putting it on the hoof so the hooves look shiny. Take it into the show, take it hunting, take it on exercise so the hooves look nice and well presented. As soon as you come back, just wipe the hoof oil off, because oil and water repel each other. If you got a bucket of water and you added some oil, the oil would sit on top of the water. So if you paint oil onto the hoof and you then apply water, or it rains, the water will just sit on top of the hoof in little balls, and the periopal underneath cannot take in the moisture. You end up with dry hooves. What you actually need is a water-based moisturising cream. There are lots of them out there. There are lots of horsey ones as well. If you want to buy a horsey one with all the extra minerals and so on, I'm not saying that they're not worth it or they don't work. But equally at the same time, if you want to go to a chemist and buy a much cheaper one, an unperfumed one, then that will do the job absolutely fine. Plaster it on. The main areas to concentrate on is the coronary band area. Paint lots of it in the coronary band, because this is where the periopal is, and then underneath the foot, lots of it around the sole. The frog, less important because it has a high water content anyway, but the sole can be very prone to drying out, and the hoof wall itself, like I say, concentrate around the top. that is the best place to put the moisturising cream. So again, to recap, if there has been a couple of days and it's been above 12-13 degrees, you really want to be applying the water-based moisturiser onto the feet. Avoid oil at all costs, and another far cheaper way of doing it is a sponge. So go to a shop and buy one of those yellow big car sponges. Have a bucket of water. This is quite labour intensive and it's time intensive as well, but it's by far and away the best thing you can do for your horse's feet. It's a really good thing to do if you're exercising your horse in the summer months when it's warm. Come back, brush them off and all of that. Big bucket of water, big car sponge, load the sponge up, place it onto the coronary band and just gently squeeze it into the coronary band all the way around. If you do that about 4 or 5 times on all 4 feet, you will be putting a ton of water into the coronary band and allowing the hoof to re-moisturise itself. One of the worst things you can do is bring a horse in dry, tired and turn it straight out into the field without looking after the horse's feet. You're going to end up with cracks and splits. Water costs nothing. Well, it doesn't cost nothing, but you get my point. It doesn't really cost anything, and a sponge, it just takes a little bit of time. If you're down at the yard at the weekend and you're going to spend all day down there, set yourself a goal of doing that 3 or 4 times a day and re-moisturise your horse's feet. If you can't do that, then the good thing about the cream is because it's much thicker, it will stay on the hoof longer, and then you'll get a much slower release of water into the hoof capsule. If it rains, there is no need to put any moisturiser whatsoever on, because the water in the ground, the water on the grass, the periopal will do its job. It will grab the water, it will feed it up. I've seen a lot of research papers on hoof moisture, and some of them state that hoof moisturisers don't work, but when you read the papers, what they actually looked into is how much the moisturiser penetrates into the hoof in this direction. Whereas for me, that's not how I understand how the hoof moisturises itself. I would fully expect nothing to penetrate into the hoof, because after all, that is the function of the hoof, is to keep things out, and it will keep everything out. So what the hoof has evolved to do is take moisture up over the top and down and keep the horn tubules dry that way. So that's why I'm saying to you that the best substance you can use is the one that nature provides, and that is water. So a good unperfumed water-based moisturising cream is all you need to keep your horse hopefully happy and healthy. I hope that helps. Leave any comments down below and I will try and answer any questions that you may have. Okay, thanks for watching.